This dessert is a little bit ugly but still good, kind of like how I'm feeling right now. Hi everyone, it's Tash and welcome to another recipe video, and today we're going to be making a banana Eve's pudding. Eve's pudding is a really traditional dessert with apples baked with a sponge cake on top, but because I had quite a busy week and I'm feeling quite tired, we're going to cheat, as usual. I've just noticed this side looks a little bit messy. My camera's clean, but the light's coming into the window in a way that's making it a little bit glary. I had one banana kind of hanging around that wasn't going to eat, and so I decided to make something with that. But I've also wanted to be making Eve's pudding for a while because I just quite fancied it. However, for some reason, I cannot deal with the thought of peeling, coring and chopping apples. I don't know why, it's a super simple job. But I just could not be bothered to deal with apples, so I bought myself some apple pie filling, which I didn't actually know you could get pre-made in the can. Learn something new every day. I was a little bit suspicious of it at first. I thought maybe it's going to be too sweet and too mushy, but I bought a tin anyway. I cracked it open first, had a little look, a little taste, and actually yeah, it's fine. And you know what, it tasted pretty good too. If you're making Eve's pudding from scratch, then not only do you have to prepare the apples, but you also have to pre-cook them too. The sponge itself only takes half an hour to make, which isn't enough time for the apples to get nice and soft. So what you usually have to do is you have to peel the apples, core them, chop them up, and then you have to cook them with a bit of sugar, sometimes a little bit of lemon juice, and then you can put it at the bottom as your fruit base. In this recipe, because we're cheating with the pre-made apple pie filling, we are not doing any of that. We're just making the sponge, which in itself is really quick and easy. I basically just use my own standard Victoria sponge recipe to make the topping. And then of course I sliced up my old banana. Don't know why that made me laugh. I sliced up the banana and I scattered that on top before putting the sponge on. But yes, traditional Eve's pudding doesn't have the banana in it, it's just apple. It's kind of a cousin to apple pie and apple crumble and apple cobbler. How many different ways can you bake an apple into a dessert? Anyway, all in all, this takes about 45 minutes from start to finish to make. Half an hour of that is actually just shoving it in the oven and waiting for it to bake. And the other 15 minutes is just putting everything together. And this is a hot dessert too, so because we're just into spring, but it's still a little bit cold on some days, this is perfect. So with all that said, let's go to the kitchen and see how it's done. Let's start by preheating the oven to 180 degrees C. Here I have prepared an 8 by 8 inch square tin. You can use like one of those glass Pyrex roasting dishes, just around about this size, and I've also very generously buttered it with unsalted butter. And now here I have a can of apple pie filling. It just says Princess Filling and Toppings Apple. Great for baking and creating, so let's create. We're going to dump this all at the bottom. And I also have one sliced up banana, so I'm just going to randomly dot it around as evenly as possible. And that's our base. Let's set this aside. Now let's make the sponge topping. Here I have 115 grams of unsalted butter, which I have softened at room temperature. And I'm going to stir in 115 grams of caster sugar. Now I'm actually going to cream these together just with a wooden spoon. If I were making a sponge cake, like a layered sponge cake, I would use an electric whisk because those tend to make much fluffier cakes. But since this is just like a rough and ready pudding, stirring it together with a spoon will do. But do make sure that you give it a good old beating so that it does get a little bit fluffy. So we want this sugar and the butter to be creamed together until it almost looks like whipped cream, but it still will be a little bit rougher than if we did it with an electric whisk. So keep going. There we go, that will do. That was a bit tougher because the kitchen's a little bit cold at the moment, and so was the butter, so it was difficult to get the butter to soften. But now we have a light-ish mixture. Obviously, if we did this with an electric whisk, it would be a lot paler and fluffier, but this is all we need. Now I'm going to crack in 2 eggs. And we're going to give this a good old mixing too. That's quite a rough job, but don't worry about it. And now we're going to add 115 grams of self-raising flour. That's flour that already has the raising agents added in, which you can buy from the shops. And let's give this a stir too. Now you want to stop as soon as it comes together, because of course if you overbeat the sponge you're going to activate the gluten in the flour and it's going to become tough and chewy. So stop just as it's come together. And we're also going to flavour it with about a teaspoonful of vanilla extract and a pinch of salt. We'll give this a quick mix. Again, don't beat it to within an inch of its life, we still want it to be light. And that is our sponge mixture. Let's bring back our fruit tin and we're going to dollop this evenly on top. Here I'm going to grab my spatula because there's still quite a lot in there. We don't want to waste anything. Scrape it all out and give it a little bit of a smooth down, but be careful not to disturb the underneath too much. There we go. Obviously we weren't too rough because we don't want to end up mixing the fruit layer and the sponge layer. We want the two clear layers. And now we're going to bake this for 25 to 30 minutes. That was half an hour exactly. It is bubbling hot, so let's let it cool down for about 5 minutes because yeah, it's going to be painfully hot if we try and take a bite out of that. Look at how spongy, lovely. It's cooled down a bit, so let's serve. I've got my very cute, my name is Happy bowl. I think this is a child's bowl. Got it ages ago in Malaysia from Daiso. Let's carve out a square. I know this is like a wok stir frying thing. It's totally not what this is for, but it's kind of the right size. So let's scoop out a portion. Oh, lovely. Well, granted, she's not going to win any beauty prizes anytime soon, but she is going to be absolutely delicious. You can smell that butter from the sponge. Wow, that smells so good. And you saw how quick and easy that was to make, particularly because we cheated with the apple pie filling. This is actually another good recipe you can scale up for dinner parties. So say if you need to feed 8 people, then double the recipe and use a bigger dish. As you can see, I've served mine with plenty of custard. You can serve it with whatever you want. It's your pudding, your party. I'm going to take a bite. Actually, I've got no fruit on my spoon. Let's get some banana and apple. Cheers. Wonderful. The sponge is really fluffy even though we didn't use an electric hand mixer to do it, and it is so moist because that fruit baked underneath it, so the steam from the fruit would have risen a little bit into the sponge, so it has a really moist fluffy texture, and that fruit filling gives a really nice slightly gooey layer on the bottom as well, but it's still got some chunks in there. The apple and the banana kept its shape, so you've got a nice bit of contrasting texture in there. Perfect with the creamy custard, which by the way was store-bought. I was lazy about that too. But like I said, serve it with what you like. Custard, single cream, double cream, whipped cream, ice cream, they all work. And I saw some other types of fruit pie fillings in the supermarket while I picked up the apple one too. There was cherry pie filling, so you can always substitute the apple pie filling for that under the sponge. Any canned sweet pie filling will also work with this recipe. Super handy if you want to change things up. So there you go, Cheats Banana Eve's Pudding. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's recipe video, and I hope you'll join me next Wednesday for my next one. Get the full written recipe on my blog tashcakes.com, follow me on Instagram on tashcakes.tastes, and find me on TikTok too. I'm tashcakes there too, but my handle is food in slow motion. Subscribe and hit the notification bell if you'd like to see more. Give this video a like if you liked it to help other people find it. Comment down below if you'd like me to make anything in particular, and I will see you all next time. Be good, be nice, and have a good week. No, I've got custard in my hair. Maybe I should tout it on TikTok as a fancy hair mask.